What's going on, guys? JSGC Football here, and we're here to react to my prediction for the Premier League back all the way last summer. What a season, first and foremost. Yeah. What a season.
Premier League champs.
That'll do. It's always the first day. Premier League champions for Manchester City. It's been a hard-working season, to say the least. So I'm just going to go through my predictions, what was going through my mind when I made these predictions, and see how accurate, or as the case may be, inaccurate.
Yeah, you can have a laugh.
I was with some of my predictions. So if you're enjoying the content, we've got plenty more football content coming, to make sure you do subscribe. Do go and check out all our channel links and everything. They're all in the description. And please do leave a thumbs up as well. That would be much appreciated. So let's crack on then with this video. We're going to start off first by working chronologically from bottom to top. We're going to start with 20th place. I predicted Norwich City to finish bottom of the Premier League, and I've got a big fat tick next to that, as Norwich did finish bottom of the Premier League. That is no surprise. Yo-yoing, and I reckon Norwich will get promoted next season. Yo-yos.
Yeah, it's quite a poor championship. I'd be surprised if Norwich aren't challenging up there.
Yeah, so I'm going for them to be promoted again next season, but relegated for them. Interestingly, I predicted Southampton to finish 19th. I thought they were going to struggle this season. I thought they were going to be relegated. I was going to chuck out a team, an established Premier League team that would be the team to go down, because every year there always seems to be at least one, and Southampton were my pick. They ended up finishing 15th, so I was inaccurate with that. Instead, in 19th place, it was Watford who finished 19th, and they had been relegated, and I did predict them to finish 18th and be relegated, so I wasn't far away with Watford there. Still relegated. I went for 19th, ended up finishing 18th, and Southampton, of course, being safe in 15th. Then in 17th place, I predicted Burnley. Thought they were going to struggle. I think the writing's been on the wall for them. I thought they'd have enough to be able to stay up. Unfortunately, wasn't the case. They didn't finish 17th, they finished 18th, and they have been relegated to the Championship, and I think I'm not sure how they're going to do next season, if I'm honest.
No.
I think you get a better idea by Christmas. So they're going to adapt. If they adapt quick and they adapt well, I reckon they might get promoted.
Depends on the financial of the club like that, because as I know they're in a lot of debt because of new owners. And so it depends if they need a fire sale. So if it does happen, they have a fire sale. It could be maybe back-to-back relegations or a season of mediocrity. I don't think they'll be challenging for playoffs.
Not reckon?
No.
Fair enough. In 16th place, I predicted Newcastle. Thought they were going to struggle, and to be fair, up until their takeover, they were struggling.
January.
They got to the January transfer window. They got transfers that's ended up helping them to stay in the Premier League and actually finish in a very good position in 11th. I think Eddie Howe's done a pretty good job there at Newcastle, so it'll be interesting to see who they add to their team in the summer and see what their aspirations are. You would imagine they'd be looking for progress season on season, so that would mean a top half finish for them next season, and maybe even trying to push for a challenge for maybe the Europa Conference League in 7th place, or maybe a domestic trophy, a cup run or something might be what they're looking for. I had them down in 16th, they finished 11th. Then next in 15th, I went for Brentford, who finished 13th. First full season in the Premier League, looked good. I've got a feeling there might be second season syndrome for them.
Yeah,
is my early prediction.
We'll see.
But we'll see what they add to their team. In 14th place, I went for Crystal Palace. They finished 12th, so I've not been too far away with any of my predictions, really. Crystal Palace are a very mid-table, typical Premier League team. I reckon maybe next season it'll be more of the same for them. In 13th place, I went for Brighton and Hove Albion, who ended up finishing in the top half place and finishing 9th. Had a good season. Had a good season there, Brighton. And we'll see how they again add to their team, and can they keep hold of one or two of their important players
as well.
And keeping hold of Potter as well, of course, in charge of Brighton will be the challenge. And if they do sell players, who do they replace them with? That's the key as to who challenges and who doesn't when it comes to Premier League football. In 12th place, I've got Wolves. They ended up finishing in the top half, finishing 10th in the end for Wolves. I don't think they've had the greatest of seasons, but they've not had a bad season either.
And an okay season.
They're starting to establish themselves now, which is a good thing for Wolverhampton Wanderers, starting to establish themselves as a Premier League team, and a solid Premier League team. Again, a bit like Brighton.
A bit like that,
the challenges, they've got to keep hold of the players.
The different was part of the time to be challenging for Europe every year, but I'm not so sure anymore. I don't know.
No, it's important to try and establish themselves solid. The first thing you want to do when you're in the Premier League is make sure you're not getting relegated.
Yeah.
And once you start distancing yourself away from that, you can start pushing on with the ambition. And like I said, with Wolves, they've got a solid platform there. They've got a good team there. So they just need to make sure that they keep that spine in place. In 11th place, I went for Leeds United. I think they've had a very disappointing season. Very nearly got relegated up until it went to the final day, and obviously victory for them away at Brentford, and Burnley losing at home to Newcastle. Was it at home? Was it at St James's Park? I think it was at Turf Moor, wasn't it? Is what helped seal Leeds' fate, and so they've managed to grab themselves another season in the Premier League. The writing's there for them that they need to add to their team, improve on their team, because if they don't, that 17th next season can easily become an 18th or a 19th.
Well, easily.
And with newly promoted teams as well, they're hungry, wanting to challenge, wanting to cause an upset. It could be quite difficult. So Leeds have got a very important summer.
Depending if they sell Phillips like that to Manchester City.
We'll see.
That's the type of things you don't want, or selling Rafinha.
And they could well be leaving, and if that happens, who do they sign? That's where
that's why they've ended up in this mess.
Yeah,
because there's been injury like that, especially with Phillips.
Are you ready for this one? Going into the top half, I went for Arsenal in 10th, and Arsenal for quite a while held a top 4 spot up until the final day, and ended up missing out on top 4 football with getting picked to the post by Tottenham Hotspur. North London rivals. I thought Arsenal were going to have a difficult season. I remember saying back in last summer, I thought Arsenal, if Mikel Arteta manages to get Champions League football with their team, I think he's done an outstanding job, and he deserves a promotion. He deserves to be managing a top class team that's challenging for trophies, because it's such a difficult job. And I actually think he's done a very good job in getting them to 5th, and the fact that they were sitting for a little while in the top 4 in the Premier League makes it very disappointing for them, but it has showcased that they've done very well. And what Arsenal need to do now is make sure they have a good summer, and make sure that they keep pushing to try and become a top 4 team, because the only way they keep hold of some of their players, and the only way they establish themselves with their finances, is regular season on season Champions League football. But I'm not sure, if I'm honest. Not sure. In 9th place, I went for Aston Villa, who's finished 14th. What's your thoughts on Villa's season, Aaron?
I think after a poor start, really, like that.
They've not had the greatest season.
Not had the greatest season either, because they're very. It's okay, they've stayed up, jumping like that, but
from last summer, so they sold Jack Grealish to us, didn't they? They'd made some signings. Leon Bailey was one of them that they'd brought in. They'd brought in Danny Ings, of course, as well. It just didn't really go to plan. By, like you said, poor start, and by the time it got to, was it November time, they ended up appointing Steven Gerrard, who was in charge at Rangers, who's now in charge at Aston Villa. And they've added some good players. They've got Coutinho. They're putting on a permanent deal now.
I see.
Yeah, so we'll see how Aston Villa try and push on. But the fact that they finished in the bottom half, 14th place for a club that wanted their ambition. I mean, they've had 100 million given to them by Manchester City for that signing of Jack Grealish. You'd be expecting with the Premier League money as well for them to be spending and bringing players in and trying to establish themselves.
It's an art to do it.
It's
Brentford do it very well, to their credit. They've always done it, and they do it very, very well. Making massive profits and then just reinvesting it.
Yeah. It's an art, isn't it? To be able to do
I think they should have done better, even with like Gerrard. I thought they could have pushed higher.
It's disappointing, isn't it? They
got off to a good start, but overall 14th, because went off the boil.
They stayed up, and they were like, right, okay, We need to do better next season. In 8th, I went for West Ham, who ended up finishing 7th. I've been one off with quite a few of these. I've not been too far off. West Ham, I predicted them to have a pretty good season. They've had a good season. Done well in the Europa League. Got to the semi-final. Went out to Eintracht Frankfurt in the end. They've got a place in the Europa Conference League next season. They'll want to take that seriously. European football is European football, and they'll want to build on that. I think David Moyes has done a very good job at West Ham. There was once upon a time looking like they might be a top 6 team this season. Just kind of as the European football's catched up with them, it's just started to peter away a little bit for them. But still managed to get a European spot nonetheless. And I think the West Ham fans will be
good campaign,
pretty happy with that. In 7th place, I predicted Everton.
I think we all would have like that, especially top 8 Everton like you normally do.
Normally a solid team, definitely a top half team in the Premier League. Finished 16th, and this might have been that season where finally they have a relegation under their belt, but they've managed to grind
by the skin of their teeth,
and people were questioning Frank Lampard, and he said he's taken Everton when he was in charge. I think they were 16th. He's taken them all the way up to 16th, but his job was to keep Everton in the Premier League with a difficult run of fixtures that they had. They've managed to grind and they've managed to stay in the Premier League, so that's job done. Everton must kick on. Frank Lampard, to me, is either going to be an outstanding success for them next season, but I think he might be the first man out. That's what I reckon.
It's an Everton's ambition, I don't know what it is.
There's surely Everton's ambitions with the new stadium and everything. They'll be wanting to at least be a top half team next season and challenging for things that they can't be flirting with relegation again. They can't. My early prediction.
I'm disappointed
Frank
that they didn't
Lampard out early in the season. I reckon if they get off to a poor start, we'll see. In 6th place, I went for Spurs, who've actually had a very good campaign under Antonio Conte and managed to finish 4th.
Class manager for you.
He's brilliant. It was a good appointment, really good appointment. There was a time when Manchester United and Tottenham were looking at their new managers when Solskjaer had left, and they ended up going with Ralph Rangnick instead. That's an odd appointment. We'll speak about Man United a little bit more in a minute. But Conte was an outstanding appointment. Champions League football for Tottenham next season. I think they might do quite well in the Champions League. Though obviously their aim was to keep hold of the top players like Harry Kane they did last summer. Their aim this summer will be again to keep hold of Kane, keep hold of Heung-min Son. They've got Champions League football, so I don't think they'll have any problems with that. They've already signed Perisic, haven't they, from Inter Milan. Adding to their team, so I think Tottenham could be a very difficult team to play next season, and I reckon they might, early prediction again, might have a very good season, possibly even start mounting a little bit of a challenge towards Chelsea and finish 3rd.
They probably could if they backed him like that. He's a really good manager.
We'll see what lines to go down. In 5th place, I went for Leicester, who I think had a little bit of a disappointing season, finishing 8th. If you think back to their previous season, Leicester did break into the European spots. They got into the Europa Conference League. Did they get to the semi-final and went out to Roma?
That's the one.
As well. They've had a pretty good European campaign. Leicester, to me, are a European team right now. And the fact that I predicted them to finish 5th shows how much I rated them. However, finishing 8th and no European football, I think they'll be pretty disappointed with that. That's been taken away from them from the likes of West Ham and the top 6 teams, all performing on a certain level to help them achieve European football as well. Means Leicester haven't got European football, but I reckon might have a good season next season because they've got no distractions. They're one of them teams that when they've got no European football and no distractions, they seem to really push on and do well.
No fixture congestion.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. Very interesting this one. In 4th place I went for Liverpool, who ended up finishing 2nd. Now I was expecting Liverpool to start to peter off a little bit. I was like, there's no way Liverpool can maintain their high standards that they've been maintaining. Liverpool like to focus on cups. They like to look at the Champions League, and because of that they'll start leaning their focus towards them trophies rather than the Premier League. Wasn't the case. There was a time back in January where Manchester City were far ahead of Liverpool. It would be
14 points.
It would be at
14 points. One thing they'd love to forget is they had 2 games in hand.
So
that's why they'd love to forget to mention that when they're saying you blew 14-point lead to 1.
it wasn't taken into matters. The game still to be played for them. It wasn't.
Aside from file, I don't think Liverpool's lost in the Premier League in 2022. Not lost since Christmas time when Leicester beat them.
No, they're not.
No.
It turns out the Premier League title was decided upon results against each other, both finishing 2-2 between Liverpool and Manchester City. Fine margins, really fine margins, and Manchester City managed to have enough about them to have that extra point, which is brilliant from my point of view. I thought they was going to finish fourth. Ended up having a very solid season. Interesting now for Liverpool. Can they keep hold of Salah? Mane set to leave them. These are big losses for Liverpool. So we'll see what happens for them next season. And speaking of disappointments, takes us on to third place. I predicted Manchester United, who haven't even got Champions League football. Your smile says it all there. Finished sixth, and they've got a place in the Europa League. And Erik ten Hag, I don't think he knows what he's taken on at Manchester United. I really don't think he knows, and it could be career defying. That I will say, and he's under pressure automatically, Ten Hag, because he's got one season to make sure Manchester United get Champions League football next season. Because if they don't finish in the top four, he'll be out the door, and Manchester United will just be back to square one again. And I was predicting them to get Champions League football and made good additions that brought in players like Cristiano Ronaldo. They've just not found a way to make anything work, and they've had a very disappointing season. They look very mediocre. They've looked at time terrible, really terrible. They lost to Crystal Palace and nobody batted an eyelid because it just wasn't a surprise, and I think that's where Manchester United are at right now.
Just gave up, didn't they, really, like that?
It's things you love to see. I like it. Disappointing season for Manchester United. Oh, it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing.
Goal difference again?
Plus 70. Was it plus 71 or 72? I think. Might be plus 73. There's definitely plus 70, which is embarrassing there for Manchester United. But there we go. In second place, I predicted Chelsea, as I anticipating them to build on what they've done with Thomas Tuchel from the Champions League successes. I thought they were going to have a good campaign in the Premier League. They're going to be the ones to challenge Manchester City for the Premier League title. As it was, first half of the season they were there, or thereabouts, and then just kind of capitulated second half of the season, and that gap just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was a time where Tottenham and Arsenal were starting to catch their points tally up, but in the end managed to fend them off and hold down third place. Champions League football for them, not too bad. I think they'd have wanted some domestic success, which they got to the FA Cup final and the Carabao Cup final, and lost both of them on penalties after drawing 0-0. Liverpool, fun fact, haven't scored in a final this season.
Not this season.
Yet won 2 trophies. The 2 trophies that hold the least importance. Which takes us nicely onto the most important position of all. First place, Manchester City. We've had an outstanding season. Disappointed about how we went out in the Champions League, but in terms of domestic and Premier League success, the fact that we've managed to hold Liverpool off for so long, because they were hot on our tails from February, we've held them off through March, April and May to win the Premier League trophy is what we're looking for. And I don't really think there's too much else to add on to that. I've already done my review of Manchester City's season. If you want to go and check that out on the main channel, JSGC Man City fan channel, and that would be much appreciated. So in the end, I've got 2 correct on my championship predictions, and I got 2 correct on the Premier League as well. And considering I say the Premier League's more of my forte and I have a bit more of an understanding for, doesn't show for great reading, but I wasn't far away with quite a few of them. Some Premier League teams have had good seasons. West Ham will be very happy with how they've done. City obviously going to be pretty happy with how they've done. Spurs will be happy to have broken into the top 4 as well. Brentford will be happy, managed to stay up in their first season in the Premier League. Leeds in the end will be happy they've managed to stay up as well after it looked like they might have been relegated. And then some disappointments there. Manchester United being just one of them. Everton's had a disappointing season. I'm not sure Villa will be too happy with how they've done, but it has to be commiserations to the 3 teams that are relegated: Burnley, Watford and Norwich will be playing their trade in the Championship next season. And joining us in the Premier League for next season, we're getting the return of Fulham. Have they got that new stand built yet at Craven Cottage?
I don't know.
It's been going on since we went back in 2019.
Yeah.
Was it 2020? I think it's been building it since 2019 though. Is it done? I don't know if it's done yet. Joining, we got another yo-yo, AFC Bournemouth back down to the south coast.
Yeah,
and
2 years.
Very interestingly, playoff final winners, Nottingham Forest. New team joining for the Premier League for
after
the upcoming season. We've already had the memes about them being 2 times European Cup winners, and so we've all got that to look forward to. So yeah, there we go. That's our Premier League. Well, my Premier League predictions. Aaron didn't do it with me last year. I don't know why he didn't either, but we'll correct that for this season when we do our prediction, and I'll make sure that Aaron is in there. So when we get to this point next year, we can say, here's how I did, here's how Aaron did, and we can compare each other with our predictions. So thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you all again very soon for some more football content. We've been JSGC Football.
Ciao for now.
Peace, ciao for now.